As you can see, odd things happen in August, and where did August go? It's been really quick, but I'm doing some cell building and also received some queens in the post. Two different types, some Carpathian from Apis Dono, and also coming very soon I've got some Carniolan from the same company, and then at the end you'll see me opening a box of just a few Tenuta Retiro queens, that's Buckfast. So I've got some Carpathia, more so because they made a slight mistake in the boxing, so I've got two different types, but they look great and it'll be good to try different queens. So I put together a mix of some of the best clips of August so you can get a flavour of what I was doing. I do love best cell building. It's great to raise your own queens, as many as you can, but also I like to bring in some good genetics with the best I can find. So here's some cell building, and here's a few questions I get asked a lot. Queens from Italy. So we're up at the nuke yard this morning. So these are some queens that I grafted 2 days ago when I was in my truck. Let's just see how they're done. I don't expect we're going to have a huge take, but we've got a good number of bees here that have been hopelessly queenless for a little while now. Let's see how they did. If I can get 20 cells, I'll be more than happy. Looks like I've got way less than that, but we have got some cells. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13. But that's fine. 14. Okay. 14, that's one bar completely full, and that's all I need, because I haven't made the right nukes yet. And if I can just do a trickle every time, this is after my first graft. This is with the cell builder that we shook together, and I've still got 14 cells there that are taken. So as I said, I don't need a lot. I did far too many in the graft, and I didn't have my glasses when I was grafting, so actually for me that's pretty good. 14 cells is fine. That means that I will get all these filled now, and then I'll get ready for the next lot, because the next lot isn't going to be back till tonight or tomorrow at the earliest, and we've got really high temperatures the next 2 days. So this will become hopelessly queenless for another day. I'm not going to graft in here today. I'm going to leave this hopelessly queenless till tomorrow, grafting it again tomorrow, just to delay things a bit and just keep that trickle of queens that are going to be finished ticking through. And that's great. So what I'll do is when I come back, I'll check this box again, because there was some larvae on a couple of the frames that I added, so that could be a reason why they are not drawing up a whole bunch, but there's plenty for me, but that could be why. So I just want to make sure that there's no queens coming in the box as well as on my frame. The flow has finished just about. There's still a few little things of broadleaf willow herb, for example, a bramble. There's still the odd bit of bramble, and we've got maize pollen that's probably going to come in about week to 2 weeks. There'll be a peak of that. It's not the best nutrition, but it's still good. It's still pollen. And there's loads of pollen in the colonies from the bramble and the chestnut is completely finished. So we are now into summer beekeeping, but you can see how green the grass is, and we have got clover as well. I didn't say that. We've had some rain, we've got a bit of clover, you can see it over there. There's the clover. That will give a little bit. It's not a huge amount, bigger patches of it over there, you can see the white of it. That kind of thing is lurking around this year that we haven't had for a while. So I'm pretty positive that we're going to do well. So now I'm going to put these above a super to get these finished and leave this hopelessly queenless for a while, and that is what I'm doing this year. I'm just doing a trickle of queens over the next 3 weeks so we can get them into the nukes as they appear in here, the new lot come through, and then that will be a good way of getting these mated. So I just wanted to add this question that I get asked a lot as well, and I've just remembered it. I put the starter back together, and that's my finisher. One of the ones I could use, it could be anything in finisher. As long as the cells are in a strong colony above a queen excluder, they will finish the cells once they're started. But the question is, I get asked a lot, could I leave the cells in the starter? Absolutely. But you saw, I left those started cells. If I'd have taken them out, say 6 or 8 hours after I put them in, they probably would have started even more. But because I didn't get back to them until today, which is nearly 2 days after I did the graft, they've reduced the amount down to an amount that they thought was necessary, and they may have carried on doing that further. So I would have had less cells probably to move to finishers unless I had a bigger starter. But as I said numerous times, that's sufficient for me for the moment because I know how to manage it. But if you are happy having, say, 10 or 20 cells at the end of the day, if that's what you want, leave your cells in the starter. Okay, that's just fine. But then you've got to remember that if a virgin queen does get into that colony that is begging for a queen, it's hopelessly queenless. And if a virgin queen goes in there, you're going to lose all your cells. So by moving them to a finisher, you do also evade that possible problem. I call it risk spreading. You're reducing the risk of a queen tearing down those cells because you're putting them above a queen excluder on another strong colony where all they want to do is finish them and look after them. They think those cells are supersedure cells. And that's what you see in the top of the supers in the summer. You'll see supersedure cells underneath the frames hanging down. It doesn't mean they always get, or they very rarely get laid into, because unless you have an excluder, the queen can't get up to lay an egg in that cup. But so that's what you get, and they will make those queen cells perfectly because there's a larvae in them and they've been fed already. So there you go. That's one of the questions I get often. Yes, you can leave your cells in a cell builder or whichever you use. Don't forget, you can make a cell builder from a nuke. If you've got a load of bees, you shake out into a box, that might be enough to draw you up 10 cells. That might be all you want to do. The whole idea is queen rearing is completely flexible and gives you so many options. Just look at that raw jelly. Every single, well, actually a dud there. Okay, that's the dud. But all the rest are full of raw jelly. It's quicker to me to part the frames here and pop this in. So what I've got on this bar is, you can see there, as long as these cells hang vertically down, this is a really well populated colony with nice bees, and they've got honey and feed and everything they need, and the flow's just finished. So I've got these 2 T-pieces that I open up, and then I can rest the frame between there. And when that's capped, when they're day 5 after grafting, you can put another one in. My whole point is this, okay? I'll try and explain the reasons behind having a finisher. Okay, so a finisher means you can take your cells that have been started out of the starter and put into somewhere where they're away from the starter, because they just believe it is cells, and they will be starting to work on that straight away. I'll come back in 4 or 5 days time and I'll show you the finished cells. That's just, to me, a perfect combination of a strong super, just a nice bit of honey on it, not completely full but not bad, maybe half full of honey there, but there's honey in all the frames in some format. But it's really active and really nice bees in there, and they'll finish that off. So I could put another one in there afterwards, or another one in there when I graft my next lot. So there's a trickle of cells coming through, but it's a finisher. It's a queen right finisher with a queen excluder there. I hope you can see that, so that the queen can't come up and destroy the cells. The cells were started because we initiated that queenlessness in the starter box, where there's no chance of them raising a cell. In this one in particular, it's a little bit different because we had some larvae that were a little bit younger, but they still drew those cells up, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't draw all the cells up, or the acceptance wasn't very good. So first of all, my grafting was crap because I didn't have my glasses. Secondly, the weather was duff. It's just gone warm today, so I think we'll have a better take on the next time around. Thirdly, the bees still had larvae in the cells in the frames that they could have used if they wanted to, so there wasn't the absolute maximum urgency to draw those cells up. However, they still did. I get the question asked a lot. I put my cells into the cell builder and they didn't draw many up. Always run the whole cell builder through a shaker box. What is a shaker box? It's a queen excluded bottom box. It's a super with a queen excluder on, whatever you want to call it, that you can shake bees through. There you go. And if there's a virgin queen or a normal queen in there, you will find her. She will come up that side. And the bees don't know anywhere else, remember. The bees don't know anywhere to fly to. This is their home. So no matter how many bees are all over the floor and on the sides and on the front, it doesn't matter because they only know that place. That's one of the things you've got to understand about the kind of the physiology of a cell builder, is that you're dealing with bees that were nurse bees that you put there. They were born there and they don't know any other place. So if you have to shake the whole lot through one of your queen excluders or a shaker box, just do it. Don't worry about it. They'll all go back in after. You're not going to damage a queen because there isn't one. You'll only find a queen. So that now is finished. That's a finisher. I could use other finishes here. I could use that one. I could use that one. I could use that one. That's what it's all about. It's just about using your resources, and they're all resources. I will harvest this honey probably last of all of my apiaries so that I make sure I've got finishers I can use. Really good to see. Now this, I can check this when I come back in a couple of days. I might even put a frame or foundation in there because they've been fed. They've emptied a feeder. But let's put a frame of foundation in, because you know what that does? It helps stop, it will give the nurse bees something to do. Sorry, not the nurse bees, the wax builders something to do. And when I come back, there won't be a big slab of comb in the middle there, which I don't really want. So we're just going to close this up. Still a nice lot of bees there. This is now hopeless. Well, I hope it's hopelessly queenless, but I'm going to check again to make sure it is hopelessly queenless. When I come back, they emptied the feeder that was there. And yes, I did reduce the feeder down, so it was a very small gap. Okay, I used a bit of duct tape when they're trying to chew that. I put it on top of there, and basically they've still emptied that feeder, but it doesn't matter because they were fed, and that's what kept those cells going. So that's ready for another graft. When I come back in next time, I will check for queen cells in the bottom box. Remember what Mike Palmer says? You cannot have a queen cell in a cell builder, because if they hatch out, it's a disaster, and it reduces the energy and the impetus to build cells because I've already got one. So you just check there's no more. This will do its thing in 3 or 4 days time. Now those will be capped, and then we can use those cells. I may put them in tomorrow. It's going to be really hot tomorrow, so I may put all those started cells into colonies tomorrow. Then that frees this up as well. But as I said, you can always put another load in the next bar if you want to. They will be finished, and then we're done. Then we've raised queens. It's that easy. But if you look at it in terms of the cycle, I'm going off now to create nukes. I'm pulling honey, putting honey above clearer boards at the same time. Then I've got to extract it at the same time. But it is a lot of work, but you work hard, you work fast, you just slog along and you will knock it out. There's my next nukes ready. I'm off to another apiary this afternoon after taking the clearing boards off the apiary where I just made a nuke. Just out making the most of the still nice evenings. I'm just doing some decanting. I'm mixing up basically a 1-to-1 or 1 1/4 to 1 for my early start my autumn feeding after I release my queens. So basically I've got a syrup. I'm putting it into this tank. This is the mixing tank. I've got some of my Hive Alive that I've already put in for the correct amount to be enough for 600 litres. This will be 600 litres when it's filled up. I'm going to fill it just above half, so half to 2/3, and that will be my basis, and the rest will be water. The issue I'm going to have is mixing the water with this thick syrup. But the best thing about this is I can do it this way. I can lift the heavy tote. That tote there is basically 900 kilos. I can lift that up above the other one, just tip it into the exact amount I need, and then I walk away at the end of the evening and it's all done. I'll just add the water in afterwards. I'm so super pleased with this machine. This is exactly what I bought it for. It's so handy. It's absolutely brilliant. Really, really cool piece of kit. So today we are back to release the queens. What I'm doing first is I'm just seeing if where the cage was originally, if the larvae are still present when I move the cage, and there you go. I think most of the larvae are there. I don't know if you can see that. Let's try moving that into the light. Nice pearly white larvae under there. So I would say that that queen is pretty well accepted. She's under the cage a little bit across at the moment because I moved her to another frame, and I wanted to see whether that larvae that she laid, or those eggs I should say, I wanted to see whether those eggs that she'd laid were removed or not, because if they're removed it's a sign they're not happy with the queen. However, they're all in place. So this is good. So I'm going to remove the cage again and let the queen go free. And she should be under the cage here. If not, she's out already, but I think she must be under here. Hopefully she's somewhere here. Maybe she's got out through a hole in the back. See that hole there? Right, so let's see if we can see her. There is eggs in these cells. Hope I didn't squash her if she was on the back of this frame. Here we go. Well, that is a relief. There she is. Beautiful Carniolan queen laying away. Really pleased. So I'd say she's pretty well established. There's eggs in lots of these cells, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm really happy with that. Look at her. She's absolutely gorgeous. So we're right at the end of August now, and I'm just adding this video at the end just so you can see how well these two have built up. But super impressed. Look at this. We've got 7 frames of brood here. That is a full frame. The bees are really nice. They really do not. There's a few in this colony. There will be a few from the big nuke I made up originally that are still the original bees. So they were from a quite aggressive colony, unfortunately. But I took them away, and there was nurse bees at the time. But the rest of them are so docile. You can see the amount of brood there on these frames. It's unreal, you know. The queen is actually on the frame next door, but this is laid up as well. This is the buckfast queen. You can see it's wall-to-wall brood. And this is an inseminated queen. Another whole frame there, 7 frames of brood. It's almost too much, really, and this is why I have actually gone for a colony that is a Carniolan, and I've just done this one, and they're absolutely amazing as well. She is just laying like crazy, and they're so unaggressive. There's no bees flying around me. They're just trying to do their thing. There's a little bit of a flow one starting on the ivy. You can see some very pale yellow coming in at the moment, but I've given the other one 2 more pouches of feed because I want to start building them. I've also given them apivar. These are going to get apivar strips. I may even give them 3 strips for this one because the brood starts here and ends there. And I think she's laid into this one. I haven't checked this one, but you can see the amount of bees in this colony that she's made. But the great thing is, my whole point is, we're now into the 2nd and 3rd brood cycles from this queen. So it's completely good. I just wanted to check, just in case there was an outside chance of a supersedure cell, but there's none in there, and I think that's passed now for this year. Because when you obviously introduce a new queen, there comes a period where the queen isn't showing what she's done for the previous 2 weeks, but there's no young bees being born, and that's when you can get supersedure in most cases. It's not always, but in most cases. And obviously when the queen gets older, they might want a supersedure. But these bees are beautiful. That's a real F2, F3 colony that is fine. They're full of bees, and this has had the honey pulled off it. This gave me 2 supers of honey, but I had to put a 3rd super on underneath, obviously, to get rid of some of the bees. But I'm going to split this now, give this apivar, and then off, and I've got 7 more splits to do with the queens I've got there on the truck today. But it was just to show you how well they've done at the end of it all. I'm just going to get them ready for winter now. I'm going to give them their mite treatments, as I said, and they'll have oxalic acid vapor as well when we do that. But overall, very, very pleased. It seems I've got 2 good breeder queens now that will be ready to use for raising queens next year. Just doing a bit of maintenance on my bee escapes as I'm using them. That's what came out 1 apiary yesterday from the feeders, because they'd obviously built in them over the winter and spring. It's just to say before you say, what's that unholy mess in the corner of your van? But today I'm just quickly, before I go off out to put some more bee escapes on, I'm just checking out some of these bee escapes, and you can see they're all completely blocked up. Some are worse than others. So what I'm doing is I'm just swapping these over. Now there's a way you can swap these over. You can just put 4 screws in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can slide it one way or the other, and then by doing that you can just quickly take it off. I personally find that I don't like that, and I want this secured down better, so I just screw them down. But for the amount of time it takes to take them off, it's worth taking the time to unscrew them. I just find that works better, and I just think you get a better result at the end of it. The problem is these boards are thin, and I think I like a nice whole cross section of support on each one. I'm not changing them all, and to be honest, if most of them have got, if only there's just a bit of propolis on each side there, I will leave them on for now. But what you can do then is we stick these in soda crystals for a few days, maybe a week, 2 weeks. Just keep topping it up, keep it really strong, and then just pressure wash them off, and it all comes up really clean. So by having a separate amount of bee escapes spare, the actual lozenge that you can buy, they're only €1 something each, cost peanuts. By having that, it's I'm actually going to change this one as well. It's quick to just swap them over, and I probably won't need to. I'll change some more. But I've got I have 50 bee escapes that I keep maintained. At any one time, I probably only ever have 30 to 40 in use. But if I've got a few more, at least I've got them then. That one wasn't too bad. You can probably see light through it, but you see it's getting pretty congested. So because I've got a little bit of time, I've got no time this time of year, but I'll have a little bit of time this morning to get this done. I just want to swap a few over quickly, then I can use these this afternoon when I go out. The bee escapes do work really well, but the more holes that the bees see going through that hole in the middle, the quicker they are likely to migrate outwards from the center hole. Just finish these 2, and I'll just go over that again while I can talk to you. So the theory of how this works is, because there's lots of little holes on one side, the smell of the other bees and the noise probably from the colony can come up through there. So the bees want to join the colony this side. So what you need to do is keep this fairly clean, and when it gets congested, it takes them longer to leave the bee escape. And if we're only leaving by those 2 holes at each end, the more congested this is, the slower that is. So it's just something that's just maintenance. I mean, I didn't know about having to do this until I saw my colleague showing me a few years back, and now I understand. You just have to maintain it. But if you've got the clean ones and you're going to do a batch of cleaning, take them all, clean them all, and then they're redone. It's just something you really need to do every year, if not every second year. I'm in the 2nd year with these now, and I need to make sure that they're clean, because some of them I left on for a longer time than I should have done last year, and that's when they get, because this time of year the bees love making propolis in these holes, and they're just a pure propolis trap. So the whole idea is you put them on one day, you take them off 2 days later, and don't leave it any longer. The longer you leave it, the more congested they get up. So you can clean them always, but it's just a little bit more work. Anyway, that's what I'm doing. Out in chestnut land today, putting on bee escapes, making splits. You can see the ones I've just done. It's all very epic when you don't find the queen. There's robbing. There's bees, but everything's good. I just had a queen that I'd found. I'd shook her through an excluder, into the top of the nuke because I was trying to make sure I didn't get her in the nuke because I didn't find her first time round. Saw her, just about to collect her. She goes back into the nuke underneath, over the edge. And I'm like, great. So I take the nuke apart. Can I find her? Anyway, that one is a queen not seen. That's an Amatraz one. I'm not going through that again to find her. That's what I do when I'm doing bees like this. You can't spend too long on one thing. However, I may have to come back tomorrow because I may not finish today. And all these are honey. 3 supers there, 3 there, 2 there, 1 there, 2 there, 2 there. It's all really good. Just got back from that first day at Chestnut Land Apiary. Really good, loads of honey on those hives. Man, is it hard work, hard graft. You can see, certainly a bit sweaty, been drinking loads, but I'm going back tomorrow to finish off. I did 9 nukes this afternoon. Problems finding some of the queens as usual, but hey ho. We did have a few that were from last year and the year before, so that's good. Whereas yesterday, another apiary, a lot of the queens were superseded from the previous year as well, so I had to mark them all. But it is what it is, as we say, just knocking it out, going to pull honey. It's going to get really hot over this weekend for a couple of days and then go back down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a day tomorrow at Chestnut Land, finish that, pull honey probably tomorrow morning from this first apiary I pulled 2 days ago, get that home, get another load home, and then I can extract that over the weekend if it's hot, because the hot weather helps the honey flow really nicely. That reminds me, I've got to wash a barrel. Anyway, other than that, it's good. We're just plodding along, getting the work knocked out. Just up at a nice little apiary where I did a lot of that bee moving in the spring, so I couldn't get into the place, you might remember. And I admit I have neglected this apiary a bit, but my word, has it given well. For the few hives that are here, just to say, those 1, 2, 3, 4 at the end, every single one of those, that's 8 supers of honey. But they're not just 8 supers, half and half, they're completely full. That one, the queen is above the excluder, didn't do much. This one is an old red dot queen. And I mean like 4 years old. She was in a swarm in, I think, that tree in the spring. Long story short, she's given me like a complete super honey, but literally I thought there was something stuck on the box, so I couldn't lift it off thinking it's stuck. But it was the weight of the honey. So it just shows that this apiary, I'm doing these now. So I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on number 6 nuke as well. So we're right at the end of the season now, and I'm really getting towards the end. I've got a few queens coming next week as well, and I've got some to use up now that I bought. We're really on the kind of last gasp. I will be done pulling honey by mid next week at the latest, if not over the weekend. So I'm really pleased. It looks like a 1.5 tons at the most, but that's like treble what I had last year. And last year it lasted surprisingly well, even with sales in my own pots. Just to say as well, we have robbers, and I don't like using loads of scotch or tape. But you know what? When you get a honey super that's that full and you're at all worried, use a bit of tape. Don't risk it. I've come back already and found one robbed out 2 days ago. But in fairness also, it was robbed out the day before, like the week or 2 weeks before, because the colony inside died and it just didn't hang in there till I got there in time. But there's robbing going on. The ivy hasn't really started yet, thankfully, because I'm still pulling honey. But there's a few ivy bushes that are kind of just coming into flower, but they never really give any real amount of nectar until really November, until October, because it's really dry. Sometimes mid-September, but usually it's September, October time. And if you're wondering what ivy is Heterohelix. We get it here. We get it all in Northern Europe, and it's a plant that grips to the side of trees and grows up into trees. But it is a huge source of nectar before the bees go to bed in the winter, if they do go to bed at all. And that's what's been happening recently. Last 2 years, we've hardly had a winter. So let's hope we get a decent winter this year. I don't mind losing some bees if they're cold over the winter, but most of the time, it doesn't matter how cold it gets. If the bees are set up right, they'll survive just fine. You've just got to keep an eye on the feed. But that's what I'm doing now. So when these bee escapes are, you can see the bee escapes just in the middle there. This is a bee escape there, just there. And the bees go round and round and down the hole in the middle and out. There's many types of bee escapes you can use, but I use the rhombus type. Other people use other ones. That's the type I use. There you go. I've actually just changed quite a few, as you'll see by the video before. That's them all clean now, and because you can see the light through the middle there, they tend to try and find their way out. The bees look through there, can see the colony the other side, and they like to try and find their way out even quicker. So that's the ones I use. They go on that way, and then I'll come back a day and a half to 2 days. Probably that's more than enough time. It's nice and cool actually. And take the honey off. Then I come back and I'm treating the rest of these with amatraz, which are these strips. And there's the one I've treated already that is there, because that's got no honey super on. Well, it's got honey super on, but there's no honey in the super. There's just a bit of brood because the queen got stuck above the excluder for some stupid reason. But anyway, she's been marked as well, so that's great. And I'm finding the #1 aid that helps me in all my beekeeping is having all your queens marked. It saves you so much time. I was a couple there, I went through, I had to go through twice. I found every queen and marked them, but it really did make a difference finding them straight away, because you just make the nuke up. You just don't want to take the queen away when you're making a nuke, because it just makes the colony raise a new queen. And this time of year, it's getting to the point now where mating is probably, there's still a lot of drones around, but mating just isn't as good, and it could go off the weather and they might not be able to do it. So anyway, I'll take the honey off, as I was trying to say before, but before I digressed, come back, take the bee escapes off, check the queen is in there laying, check the feed levels. A feeder goes on anyway, and everything gets a Hive Alive feed with 1-to-1. I'm only feeding 1-to-1 still. There's loads of time for them to make brood, because the amatraz is going to work. I want them to make lots of brood, to have lots of workers. And when we get into October, then we really fill them up with thick syrup to block them up, stop the queen laying, and then hopefully we've got enough of nice winter bees to go into the winter that are relatively clean. And that should be everybody's basis for wintering, hivernage they call it in French, is that you don't want to block up your colonies too early, because you need those new bees to be made now. We're now coming into September, October, maybe more September for a few northern countries and northern areas. Maybe they would debate and say we need winter bees being made now. I'd say for us, in this place here, we're near the English Channel, we're sort of northern France, I would say that there's plenty of time to make winter bees yet, judging by and going by the previous few years we've had. I've had bees even brooding in November. But in November we seem to go, suddenly the temperatures tumble, the light level is so low then that eventually that temperature shuts off and we only get maximum 7 to 8, 9s outside. So the colony struggles to keep warm, the brood ring shuts off. And that's when we're going to go around and do our oxalic acid vape on everything again, because that's the time we say there's the least likelihood of there being any brood in the colonies. It doesn't mean there's none, but it has the greatest effect because there's the least amount, so we get the maximum hit on the mites. So as well as treating with amatraz, that's apivar strips, as well as treating them by caging the queen, in the majority of my other hives, I'm just releasing queens now because they've been caged for 21 days plus. That's done now. It's too late to cage queens now, as I said, because they need to be laying now. I get to this point where if I haven't done an apiary like today, I come back and get apivar. It's getting towards the point as well that it's getting a little bit late to treat with apivar. But it's fine. As long as they're brooding, that's the time. And as long as they're making bees, the ideal scenario would be to give your bees apivar or cage the queens in end of July, early August, release all the queens now and last week and the week before. They then machine gun lay everything, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. You've got a nice load of clean bees going into the winter. As Randy Oliver says, if you forget about all the other problems we're facing with bees and just concentrate on your varroa, the bees generally look after themselves. And it's the expression that a lot of people seem to forget these days, is that we're focusing too much on all these fragmental things, where if we just focused more on keeping our colonies mite free, the rest would follow a lot easier. Now don't think I'm being an idiot by saying that, because it's the absolute truth. And if you do it yourself, you'll find that the amount of time you spend on doing other things that aren't quite so pertinent at the moment, if you just focus on your mites, getting the bees to bed for the winter clean, you will have much better results next spring. So I still obviously I'm giving them a good feed, because there's no real feed in this area yet. There's no real nectar coming in of any sort. So I'm giving them a Hive Alive in my syrup. I'm giving them 1-to-1 to help, not to guarantee brood, but to help in the likelihood of them making brood and not just shutting down and filling up with syrup, because that mimics the outside nectar flow. Okay, so they think there's a flow coming in, and I might even give some pollen sub. I've got a load at home ready. If I have time next week, I might mix up a whack, and everything I go around then gets a pollen sub as well. But in terms of pollen for us, we do have a lot around here, and it's not necessarily so important for us to make sure the bees get pollen sub, because it always gets used. But I think it's something I'll give to the nukes that struggle to grow for the winter, the ones I'm making now, the splits I'm making at the moment. I will give them all pollen sub, and that will be a help, because there's a lot of good ingredients in that as well. So that's where I am at the moment. I'm still making nukes, but I'm very shortly finished. I've got a whack of extraction to do with like many people, but it's in the extraction room, all stacked up. Everything is progressing well at home. I have to tear myself away because I get so excited about the honey house coming along, and then I've got to get back to reality, and there's still too much work to be done. This should have been finished this week or last week, but it won't be long. The thing is, the colonies are good. I'm surprised how good they are. Even the colonies that didn't give a lot of honey have given me a nuke, and that's what it's all about. And now they're strong, they're being fed. We're going into the winter with potentially really clean bees through different reasons, different methods, as I just explained, and that's what it's all about. So this is the apiary that I neglected for a bit while in the summer, but you know what? There is some thought now in, and there's quite a talking point amongst some of my beekeeping friends about methods of not really doing much intervention during the year and just putting honey supers on your colonies and only doing a certain amount of inspections. And when I see this apiary, how well it's done, and the honey it's given per hive when I've done relatively nothing in here all year, I do wonder if that kind of limited intervention is something we should be considering more on a commercial basis to save continuous inspections throughout the summer. It is a interesting subject, but still I'm on the side of inspecting regularly all through the summer because I want to know what's going on. But maybe we should just say we do 3 or 4 inspections throughout the year, and that's it, and you collect up what's good afterwards, and you can work out the time you saved. I think if you're working for yourself and you haven't got wages to pay, that may well be an economic factor in it. But for someone like me who wants to make a lot of nukes at the end of the summer with the limited stock we got, I think that making sure they stay queen right and being able to intervene does actually pay dividends, because now I've got plenty of nukes. I'll have over 100 nukes by the end of the week, probably 120 I think for next year, and that gives me all the stock I need and a few to sell. So I'm going to stop waffling. I want to get this finished. I'll be working late in the day, but super weather, a bit cooler today, about 21 degrees, slightly overcast, but a little bit of sun peeking through. Not hot, perfect weather to do beekeeping. You're not dying in a suit. This is what I do love about autumn days, as you do get some nice beekeeping weather when it's not like terrible weather. A couple of years ago, 2022, when we had the terrible year for Asian hornets, every day was 35 to 36 degrees, and it was just unbearable. This year, very, very pleasant, and hardly any Asian hornets. There's a few here. I've just refreshed the traps, knocked one over there again. I've got to go and sort that out. I've got more traps out here now just because we're going to be getting queens soon. So I want to have traps out everywhere to mop up the autumn queens. And we'll do that again in the spring as well. Overall, good news. Overall, another good day. Saving the baby bees. Catch you again soon. Bye for now.